What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by Kevel for Thursday Night Football. We're here to recap the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Carolina Panthers. Thursday Night Football week number 6 already in this NFL season. The Eagles take it. They advance to 5-1. So AC's Eagles are riding high. They're flying high. EAGLES 5-1. That's what it spells. 28
Super Bowl parade.
Super Bowl parade already. 28-23 against the Carolina Panthers. A pretty good team in their own right now going to 4-2. We'll talk about all the chances the Panthers had to win this game, but the Eagles won it and they secured it. And that's what good teams do at the end of the day. They come out with the victories. 28-23. We're going to go through the individual performances of both teams. Panthers, Eagles, their quarterback play, their running backs, their defenses, etc. Some of the coaching decisions had a big impact on this game as well. We'll talk about that and any other questions you have in the live comments. So make sure, of course, we're live. Make sure you're in those live comments, giving us some questions about the NFL, the Panthers, the Eagles, this game. And the big question for today, as the title says, are the Eagles legit? We're going to answer that question by the end of the video. Kevel.
Yes, Bro. I'm Kevel. That's me.
Kevel, what did you think of this game between the Eagles and the Panthers?
I thought it was a very exciting game that went down to the wire. I thought both teams found ways to shoot themselves in the foot. Cam with his interceptions, the Eagles with some poor late defensive play that was prevented by Cam's interceptions. And this game was brought to you by Andy Reid Time Management, where is not management at all. I think there was
hashtag 5-0 Chiefs still taking shots at Andy Reid.
Yeah, we are. There we go. Adam should do a run-in. I think that the difference in this game, to me, the big difference in this game it was the two things. The Eagles' front line completely dominated the run game. The Panthers had 1 yard, and I thought the Eagles' receivers were better than the Panthers' receivers overall in terms of production. There was Zach Ertz had a nice game as a tight end receiving. He completely missed a block on the Blount run late. I think my one takeaway from this is you can't trust. I don't know if you can trust Cam, but I think when we talk about the Eagles, I think there's a legitimate way to say, yeah, they're a good team, but I would also say I would say that there are some questions that I would have.
That's the thing with every team in this league. Are they good? Are they not good? What are they? Are the Eagles legit? That's the question we're going to answer by the end of this video. And I think once we go through, okay, this guy played pretty good. Oh, this is how the game went. Maybe if this way and this play was made, then the Panthers would have won and this and that. And we'll connect the pieces. And then we'll come to a decision. But let's just start off by going through the stats and stuff because that's what I do best, at least. So let's go through that. So the summary, 28-23 for the Eagles, of course. The game started off with a pair of field goals in the first quarter. Elliott, another 50-yarder for the Eagles. This guy came out of absolutely nowhere. One of the best, if not the best kicker in the NFL right now. That's no lie. He is playing fantastic. And not often do you see the Bottom Line View give a clap to a kicker, but Graham Gano, 39-yard field goal. And then in the second quarter, we had a Cam Newton 16-yard touchdown run. You'll see a lot of Cam running in this game. Zach Ertz had a 1-yard touchdown, which was the only reception to this point in the game with 2 minutes remaining in the second quarter. So that tied the game up at 10-10 going into the half. Then in the third quarter, we started off with another Zach Ertz 17-yard touchdown, which also was added on by LeGarrette Blount 2-point conversion. Then we had Graham Gano with a 20-yard field goal. We had a Jake Elliott 48-yard field goal, a Graham Gano 46-yarder. Then in the fourth quarter, a huge touchdown for the Eagles, which made it 2 scores. Nelson Aguilar had a 24-yard touchdown. He continues to improve his play. Christian McCaffrey had a 1-yard touchdown to get it a little bit closer, 28-23. The Panthers just could not get that final score to put them ahead. And that was basically the story and the difference between the Eagles and the Panthers. At the end of the day, with all their mistakes that Cam did make, the Panthers still had 2 opportunities to score the game-winning touchdown and were unable to do so. But the Eagles also made decisions of their own that didn't work out. We'll get into that. So that's the scoring summary. Going to the winning team, Carson Wentz was the better of the 2 quarterbacks today. And that, in the simplest terms, might be the biggest difference. But I don't think he was better in terms of all the amazing plays he made. Usually when I watch Carson Wentz, he does make amazing, spectacular, game-breaking plays. But I think in this game, more than anything, it was the plays that Carson Wentz didn't make that won them the game. Because in this game, it might have been the plays that Cam made in the negative fashion that won them the game. Because I thought Cam, getting into Cam for a bit, I thought Cam had a good game in moments where he made a lot of really nice plays, but he made an equal amount of bad plays, which set the team back. And that's kind of what you're going to get with Cam a lot of times, but that was the story of the game. Carson went 16 for 30, not overly impressive in that regard, but had 222 yards, 7.4 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, was sacked 3 times. Panthers do have a pretty good defensive line. They were without Lane Johnson. A lot of that came in the first and second quarters with all the pressure on Carson Wentz. It kind of got a little bit better in the second half. In terms of the other quarterback, Cam Newton, 28 for 52, 239 yards, 4.6 yards per completion, which was very good tackling on the part of the Eagles. A lot of short stuff and a lot of errant throws. I think the biggest thing with the Panthers is you have to force them to throw short because Cam is not very accurate in that area of his game. As we saw at the end on 4th and 1, they missed 2 passes on that, which I thought was the total wrong decision. But anyways, we'll get into that as well. He's not very good in the short game. He is pretty good throwing the deep ball. He is pretty good throwing high, which is his story of his career, and that's why they have those big receivers. But he also had 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He ran a lot in the game, 11 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Carson Wentz had 6 carries for 25 yards. So Cam made some plays with his legs. He made some plays with his arms, but he also threw 3 interceptions and ended up with a 48.5 passer rating, which is not good. And a lot of those interceptions were bad, especially the one near the end. And there was just a couple really bad interceptions on his part. And when they needed to play the most, this week, Cam didn't make it. So of the 2 quarterbacks, first off, Kev, which one did you think played better, and what did you take away from their performances?
Well, you have to go with Wentz. I mean, the throw to Aguilar was a thing of beauty. The only thing that I would say about Wentz is this was one that my concern with the Eagles is away. You have the ball with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Run that clock out. Don't give them another chance. And they didn't do it. But that's kind of a whole offensive situation, not necessarily Carson. He ran the ball pretty well. Had the nice throw. I didn't think he was – yeah, the first half he kind of was struggling, but once he got into the fourth quarter, he got clutch a little bit. But at the end, little shaky at the end, but the Eagles' defense pulled this one out.
Yeah, I don't think this was Carson Wentz's best game by any regard. In Carolina against a pretty good defense, I didn't really expect it to be, but he still threw 3 touchdowns. And like you're talking about at the end of the game, he didn't make the play to secure the game. A guy like Brady, a guy like Rodgers, and we shouldn't be comparing Wentz to those guys. But I do believe Wentz is playing as a top 10 quarterback right now. And yes, he's very young, but a great quarterback would make that play. He would have recognized, a Rodgers or Brady would have recognized Alshon Jeffrey on the slant, one-on-one. And even Tony Romo recognized that in the booth. He didn't go to it. He knew he missed it on the sidelines. And that's good for a young quarterback to recognize that and to know that and to realize that he made the mistakes and to get it next time. But still, those great quarterbacks, that's the difference between some young, talented QBs and some guys that have had the experience. And I think one of those guys would have put the game away right there on that play. And Wentz, that's the difference between winning and losing in this league against good teams. You don't make that play to secure the game, and you let Cam come back on the field. And luckily enough, their defense made the plays, or the Panthers didn't make the plays for the Eagles to win. But still, that is concerning. I understand that. But I think, we can let a couple slide because we have to remember this guy is a young quarterback. It is the second season. He is playing out of his mind right now. he isn't turning the ball over a lot. So you have to give him that credit, but a couple missed opportunities too.
Yeah. Cam was Cam. I mean, there's two sides of Cam. There's the good Cam and bad Cam. There was times we saw a good Cam today.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But there was a lot of times we saw bad Cam today. And if it seems like to me, if something isn't going well, Cam feels he has to put this entire franchise on his shoulder and do everything himself. And that's when bad Cam comes, because he ends up throwing errant passes and throws into coverage, and just let the players play. That's the thing with Cam, that it's like it doesn't have to be all him. He's got talent around him. And
yeah, I did recognize that in this game. I felt like Cam tried to do it too much himself, although at times it worked out, and it was like, wow, Cam is like winning this game by himself on offense right now, because his receivers weren't doing him any favors, dropping a lot of passes. His running game was not existent. So one of the reasons they were in the game was because of Cam. But another reason why they lost the game was because of Cam. So that's what you get with Cam. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, but like if Cam wasn't Cam, they wouldn't have been close. But if Cam wasn't Cam, they might have won. So like it's hard to really distinguish that. So you got to give him credit. It wasn't all bad. But you got to look at both sides of the story. But at the same time, he made a couple crucial mistakes. So, and there's still those ailments of he can't throw short, and he misses guys high, and he sometimes makes dumb decisions. There's still that following him through his career. So going to the running games, obviously we saw a much better running game from the Eagles, which helped their quarterback. LeGarrette Blount has had a good few weeks, 4.8 yards per carry, 14 carries, 67 yards. Surprised they didn't run him a little bit more in the second half. I would have liked to seen that a little bit more. Barner also had 5 carries for 7 yards. Clement, 2 carries for 2 yards. Looks like Blount is pretty much the workhorse in that regard. The Panthers, not much.
The dude came into this game with a 5.6 yard per yard average. This guy's over 30.
Blount?
Yes.
Blount's having a good season. I think he's trying to prove those Patriots wrong.
Yes, he might be. But he's doing a workhorse. He's doing workhorse-like things. He's playing really well. I had the tough decision. I actually was up to 5:15 my time out here. Blount or McCaffrey, and I went with Blount. But
McCaffrey got the touchdown, so it was close though. Blount could have easily got a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's sometimes it happens. Yeah, because McCaffrey 4 carries, 8 yards. He did all his work in the receiving game. 10 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Which he
is not getting a lot of running yards.
I didn't think he would. I compared him a lot coming out of college to Reggie Bush, except less explosive. A little bit more polished as a receiver, but like less explosive. And I think what we saw in Reggie Bush's first season is he was really good in Sean Payton's offense at receiving and everything, but he wasn't a great runner. A lot of people felt that McCaffrey would be a better runner because he has that vision and everything that we saw, but he is a little small, and I feel like they're not being creative enough with how they get him the ball in the run game. Like, put him on Kansas City, and I'm not sure that he isn't Kareem Hunt right now. So it's an interesting discussion, and I also think that one of the stories that we should get into after we go through the stats is the Panthers, their coaching, their offensive coaching, their game plans and stuff like that. And their play calls might be a little bit iffy. We'll get into that after going through all the players and such. But, yeah, McCaffrey, still some things to be learned on the ground. Cam Newton was their leading rusher by like 60 yards. Nothing really else to be said. Also, Fozzie Whitaker got injured in this game. So
yeah.
Receiving. For the Eagles, 4 catches, 71 yards for Alshon Jeffrey. Solid, had 10 targets. So, and he was matched up with Bradbury for a majority of the game, who was a pretty underrated corner. He had his battles. He had his plays. Nelson Aguilar, 4 catches, 55 yards on 7 targets. He's continuing to improve. I really like him in the slot. He's definitely an explosive player. And I'm not sure. He's playing really well on the Eagles, but I'm not so sure that if he wasn't on a team with a more relevant slot position role on his offense, that he wouldn't be a really good receiver. I mean, he looks really talented right now. He has his confidence back. He looks explosive once he gets the ball, and he's dangerous out there. So I think they should definitely try and get him the ball a little bit more. Mac Hollins had 2 catches, 38 yards, who was kind of a preseason darling for the Eagles. This was Zach Ertz's worst game, even though he had 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, 18 yards. A lot of that had to do with Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and the linebackers on the Panthers. They did a good job of taking him out of the game. Carolina, Kelvin Benjamin, 9 catches, 99 yards. He had 13 targets. He had a couple of drops, but Benjamin had a decent game overall. He just had a couple of drops, but majority of the game he was open and he was winning his battle. McCaffrey, 10 catches, 56 yards, a touchdown. We brought that up. 14 targets in this game. Devin Funchess, 3 catches, 36 yards, 9 targets. He was targeted a lot, it seemed. It seemed like there was a couple of plays that were left on the field. But I have liked what I've seen from Funchess lately. I think he's developed a lot better. Ed Dixon, 4 catches, 36 yards after a huge week last week on 8 targets. Kind of a letdown, but Malcolm Jenkins is a tough matchup. So what did you think of those receivers on both sides?
Benjamin was strong because, 99 yards. Can't complain too much about that. Funchess, there was a couple of drops. There was a couple of key drops. And so for that, I mean, I think it was kind of even out. I think the last interception, was the last interception? Didn't that go to him? I can't remember.
That was intended for Benjamin, but Benjamin went the seam and not the post, I think, or the post and not the seam.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Because it was an option route. It was an option to go post or seam. And he went post, I believe, thinking it was a cover 2, but it was a cover 0. And he went the seam, and Cam through the seam. So it was way off, like both guys.
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar continues to impress and continues to improve. Jeffrey was good. We didn't see a lot at Zach Ertz, and we talked about McCaffrey. I just think when the play was needed, it felt like the Eagles got it. The Eagles receiver got it. That Aguilar catch. That Jeffrey, that key winning drive, he went to Jeffrey. He got the big 30-yard catch, and then Aguilar got the touchdown after that. So that was what really was the difference in the game, was that key. That drive was the key point. And when the Panthers went down, they couldn't get it done.
I think the biggest thing for the Panthers in this game, we talked about it a little bit, they weren't able to run the ball, which forced their hand and kind of forced them into a one-dimensional game. And when the Panthers are like that, that's the best way to beat the Panthers, because you force Cam to throw 50 times, which that's not his thing. They like to work off of play action a lot. A lot of their offense is oriented around the option and the play action off the option and the deep pass, and it's not necessarily a short passing game. And I think that Carolina really struggled in of course, the short yardage, as we'll talk about in the end of the game. And then, I think just not being able to run the ball hurt them a lot in this game. And I just think it just made them too one-dimensional. And I almost question that they didn't try and run the ball more. I understand that they were down in the game, but for Jonathan Stewart and McCaffrey to only get combined 12 carries, that's not really even trying to run the ball. I understand it wasn't very successful, but sometimes you need to at least run the ball every once in a while so that you can work your game plan to the very least. Because if they're stopping your run game to that, to that extent, that means that they're focused on taking that away. So they're going to be focused on taking that away for the entire game until you stop doing it. And then once you stop doing it, they'll focus on your passing. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they stopped early in the second half. They kind of put the run game plan and threw that in the garbage. And they probably could have brought it back a little bit. But they were still controlling the clock. But it wasn't, there was a couple of penalties that the Eagles took. There was that PI call. And then, they were keeping them in the game when this game plan shouldn't have worked. And they were, late they were.
A lot of it was Cam. Cam was making a lot of plays, a lot of scrambles, a lot of big throws. Benjamin, a couple first downs, McCaffrey. And
Yeah.
I think they were making a lot of plays near the end, but then they just kept shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. It was like they were going one step forward and two steps back, and then the Eagles penalty late. It kept them in. Yeah, I just, I think you could have had a couple of two or three. You didn't have to run the ball a lot, maybe two or three.
They should have ran. Okay, let's get to the 4th and 1. They should have ran at least once.
Yeah.
On the 4th and 1. And to not run with Cam on the, almost, I said this earlier in the game, and I put it in Twitter. I said, it's almost impossible to stop Cam on the quarterback blast play on the 4th and 1, because if he falls forward, he's 6'6", so he's automatically past the line.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah, their play calling was really interesting, and it became predictable because the Eagles were able to take the run away.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the key plays on offense, and then we'll get to the stats on defense. I think that obviously that one Eagles play where Barnett hit Cam, that was a big thing. I liked their touchdown that they converted to McCaffrey. They ran that same play on a 4th and 1, which was the exact same play for 2 yards. There was a big 3rd or 4th and 10 to Benjamin across the middle. But near the end, I don't understand. In the biggest part of the game, the second to last drive, they throw 3 bombs to the end zone in a row. And they don't, they're moving the ball, checking the ball down. McCaffrey here for 10 yards. Funchess on and out. Benjamin across the middle. And then they just go 3 bombs, basically Hail Marys to the end zone. One of them was a jump ball to their running back. What type of play calls is this? This isn't and then they throw the interception. So it looks even worse. And it was the same sort of play.
Yeah.
Why are they throwing the ball 40 yards down the field when they're at the 50-yard line with 3 minutes left? Doesn't make any sense. It's not like there's 30 seconds left. There's 3-4 minutes left. You have an opportunity to go down the field and score with all the time you want. You can run. You can scramble. You don't have to spike the ball. You don't have to call a timeout. You can do whatever you want. You got 4 downs. Can you explain to me what they were thinking and what you would have done in that situation? Because I don't understand what they were doing. I totally disagree with their play calls there.
Yeah, but they were only down 5 at that point too.
Yeah.
They weren't. I can't explain it. They were. I mean, I think the only thing that you could possibly. I couldn't think of it because it was really, even if you got the touchdown, you're leaving. The Eagles had 3 timeouts, 3 minutes. They easily could have scored. I didn't, and you were down to 1 timeout at that point in time because you had to.
And they did a terrible job with the timeouts.
Yeah.
The first one
was spent. Challenge.
Personally, I'll explain my point of view, which was the same as Tony Romo's. I don't challenge that because you're on the 1-yard line and you have 4 cracks at the 1-yard line. I know you're a Seahawks fan, Kev, but you have 4 cracks at the 1-yard line to put that in with Cam Newton.
Sorry, how many? The 1-yard line. Sorry, let me.
With the best 1-yard line player in the NFL. You have 4 cracks. And you challenge it, and you waste a timeout. Now, it didn't matter, but at the same time, it could have mattered. I don't agree with that. The second one was spent the
4th and 1 was weird because they took 25 seconds to decide what they were going to do.
Yeah.
And they had to take a timeout there. That was weird.
Weird. Because because it was on the 4th and 1, and then they go for the 4th and 1. They call a timeout before that, and you're like, you just left yourself exposed. If you don't make this 4th and 1, you lost.
Yeah. 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 That was entirely weird. I did not understand that.
Dumb. Let's get to the defense, then we'll get to some comments. Carolina defense, 11 tackles for Mike Adams, 10 tackles. Or Mike Adams also had a quarterback hit. Shaq Thompson, 10 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 1 quarterback hit. He has been put in unreasonable situations. The Panthers continued. They did this against the Patriots. They continue to do this against slot receivers. Shaq Thompson came in as a running back safety linebacker. He's really athletic. But to ask him to guard Nelson Aguilar and Danny Amendola is absolutely unreasonable. I don't understand why this guy is covering these players. And on the game-winning touchdown, that's exactly what happened. He's a very good cover linebacker, but to cover him man-on-man, that makes no sense.
Yeah, he had a tough night.
Thomas Davis did his thing, 10 tackles, sack, tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. Bradbury had a quarterback hit. He had a sack, 10 tackles. He had the sack early in the first quarter. Charles Johnson, 4 tackles. Kuechly, 4 tackles, had a concussion.
Yeah.
Quan Short, 4 tackles. Kind of quiet in this game.
Did like Mayo. I did like Mayo.
Mayo had the big pass deflection right at the end of the game.
Yeah, and the big stuff too.
Yeah. He looked good. Peppers had a sack and a forced fumble. The guy continues to do it. He's still good as a pass rusher. He's still dangerous.
Yeah.
I think, this defense does look a ton better from last year. They're obviously a lot better put together, but additions like Mike Adams and Julius Peppers, Captain Munnerlyn, even though they're old, they've really secured this defense into a pretty good unit. Now, they did struggle at moments, and they still struggle in their secondary a little bit, but they're a lot better, and they kept this team in the game at the end. And that's all you can really ask against a good team like the Eagles. And the Eagles are a good offense. They're going to score, and they did struggle, and I'm not trying to say that the Panthers defense can get away with one here, but they did make a couple of key stops and key moments.
Especially at the end when they gave the Panthers another shot.
To give Cam 2 shots to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, it's good they have that veteran presence. Kuechly is a huge loss. He's one of the best linebackers in the game. It's a huge loss, heart and soul guy. Always been a big fan of him, but hopefully he's not out for long. But it's good they have the veteran presence there. I think that will help them going forward.
For some reason, ESPN doesn't want to show me the stats for the Eagles. So who did you think played well for the Eagles tonight?
I have these on TSN.
Okay, go ahead.
Hail Canada, by the way. I'm going to pull them up here. Sorry, it was on the Carolina stats. Eagles stats, defensive stats. Let's have a look. Kendricks, 10 tackles. 1 stuff, 1 tackle for a loss. Bradham, 7, 2 defenses, 3 assists. Jalen Mills had an interesting game. He had a pass interference, but he got an interception. Good and bad there. Von Curry was all over the field with 5 stuffs. Was it? No, 0.5, not 5. Sorry. I didn't see
that. Would have been insane.
Yeah. Jernigan, 1 tackle. Hicks had a good game. The secondary had a pretty interesting game. Well, Jalen Mills was the one you noticed a lot because they seemed to be working with him.
Yeah.
Give the Eagles front 7, although the stats don't necessarily put it. Although Graham had a really great big game, 3.5 yards of sacks with half a sack. Their front 7 played really well. Took away McCaffrey and Stewart in terms of running, which I think allowed Carolina to be one-dimensional and forced them into some weird decisions. So I give the front 7 some credit for that.
Yeah, I think the front 7 did play well. They played really good against the run. They took away what the Panthers want to do, as we talked about. Their DBs aren't exactly the strongest, like they're specifically their corners, but they are competitive, and that's a lot better than you can say about the Eagles' corners last year. So that's good. And I thought that they actually had some decent matchups on the outside, given their size of their corners, which is different for them because, the Panthers' corners are really tall. Usually they have a huge advantage in that regard, but they didn't in this game because the Eagles, and they were physical and they were tough. And yes, they did have some pass interference, but they also made their fair share of plays. I like the play calling from Schwartz's perspective. He called some timely blitzes that I thought were effective. Of course, they had that cover 0 blitz where Cam threw the interception on the miscommunication a couple other times, but just that one, for example. You brought up Brandon Graham. I think some of their linebackers a little underrated, like Kendricks and Hicks in coverage are pretty good. And Cam, you know, they did not really contain Cam very well at the end of the game. That was one thing that they kind of missed out on. But overall, their defense is pretty opportunistic. I'm not going to say it's great or anything, but it's pretty decent, and it did its job, and it made the plays at the end of the game. So that's what matters. Yeah, so Eagles 28, Panthers 23. Any final things to talk about before we get to the comments?
You know, I think I'm going to say something that Adam's going to be angry about, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you realize how easy this Eagles schedule is?
Why? They played the Chiefs, the Redskins, the Panthers.
Okay, so they got 3 okay teams. Let's look at the rest. Redskins at home for a Monday nighter. In
Playoffs for the Eagles.
San Fran, Denver, that's a tough one.
Denver's tough.
Cowboys.
Divisional game. No Zeke.
Trubisky and the Bears, the Seahawks.
The Hawks.
Rams, Giants. They got a 3-game. That'll be the interesting time. The 3-game road trip to Seattle.
Not against the Giants. They don't have anyone.
Well, that'll be late in the season. And then you got Oakland and the Oakland will be out. Dallas, I think the Priest may have to come in and give last rites to the Dallas Cowboys as of today as well. Right. So they're in the path to the playoffs. But I don't look at the schedule as a really daunting task for them. I mean, Denver's going to
do you think they're the best team in the NFC right now at this moment? It would have to be between them and the Packers, right?
Yeah, I could see Green Bay beating them now.
Or maybe Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta.
I'm sorry. No. I
but
don't.
At this moment, I'm not saying like for the season ender, but I mean like right now.
I think at this point you can put them top 2. Sure. Do I think that they can sustain this? I don't know. I think that there's a slump coming. I think there's a losing streak coming.
I think right now you have to put them, like you said, right next to the Packers. You could flip a coin between them and the Packers. And I think all Eagles fans would accept that before the season and say, hey, in week 6, we're the second best team in the NFC. Yeah, for sure. Come playoff time, I think they still need to prove some things, but there's not a lot of teams that are really like impressing me or anything really. Right now, if I had to name the top 6 teams to make the playoffs in the NFC, I don't know if I could even do that. I mean, in the NFC West, it's between the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks beat the Rams, so I'd have to go with the Seahawks. The NFC North, it's the Packers. The Vikings without Bradford and Cook, even though Bradford's going to be on and off, still don't think they're really going to make it. The Lions are probably slightly above them. They did beat them. Then you go to the NFC South, which I think is a strong division. I think the Panthers probably are still in that playoff hunt right now. You have the Falcons who are in that playoff hunt right now. I think the Saints could sneak up on some people. I think the Redskins could sneak up on some people, but the Eagles did beat the Redskins. So I think those teams are all in the conversation, but there's no clear team that I'd really say is head and shoulders above the rest. Yeah. So to answer the question of are the Eagles legit right now, at least in the NFC conference, I mean, I don't think they're better than some of the top teams in the AFC. That's just my opinion. But are the Eagles legit at this moment in time? And if the Super Bowl was played and if the NFC championship was played right now, could the Eagles win it? Yeah. So the Eagles are legit at this moment.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens when the losing streak comes, because it is going to come. They're going to lose 2 in a row. It's going to happen at some point, right? I don't think they're not going 13.
They're not going 14 or 15-1.
I think a reasonable expectation would be 11-5.
I could even say, I mean, the way they're playing right now, I wouldn't say 12-4 is out of the question, 13-3. I mean, the way they're playing right now.
I do think they're the best team in the NFC East. I'll say that. I'll give them that. And I would say that even with Zeke at this point in time.
I think the Cowboys are the 3rd best team in that division. So
I agree. I would agree. Sorry, Dylan, but I would agree.
Let's go to the comments. Let's finish this off. Lawrence Hackett says, let's go. Bodo says, great day for Philly. Elliott's gone for 6, and they beat the Panthers. Predator says, nice Eagles win. He says, Cam, 3 interceptions. Plus, you can't have your QB as leading rusher. This isn't Mount West College football or a military academy. Predator says, too many turnovers cost the Panthers the game. We discussed that, yeah. Bodo says, that one at the end of the second quarter towards the end was horrible. Predator says, Eagles played pretty okay. King says, Blunt did great. We both agree on that. I think Blunt has exceeded expectations right now for the Eagles. I thought he would be a solid addition. I didn't think he would quite give the spark that he has. Russell Wilson, I think they still need to use him more, actually. Russell Wilson, Jets are greater than the Raiders. The Raiders beat the Jets, so I don't know if we can say that.
That's true. Yeah, you got to give it. Yeah, but right now, poor Raiders.
I think it's Joan says that no call for delay of game pissed me off so hard. I'm assuming you're an Eagles fan. Well, the guy did hit him like 10 seconds after the whistle. That was the right call. It was just really stupid from the Eagles' perspective.
Yeah.
Bodo says you still have Green Bay. Atlanta's coming off the bye. Let's see if they get their shit together. He also says the reason there's really no outstanding teams is because you got the great old guard, have a great new guard, nothing in between. And some of the old guard is looking really old. In other words, this is a transition period for the NFL. Interesting take, Bodo. How do you feel about that, Kev?
Good take. Good take, Bodo.
All right. That's going to wrap it up. Eagles, Panthers, 28-3. Hope you guys enjoyed this game, this recap. If you did, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Join us this weekend for Sunday NFL AM Live. I won't be there, but join us. Sunday night recap, Monday night recap, recaps. Check out the NHL recaps as well because they're a lot of fun, me and Fitty Trent. And also Stardom and Sid'em tomorrow, back tomorrow. Betting should be out too sometime in the next 2 days. So check that out. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Also, if you're an NHL fan, Puck It Up podcast starting this Saturday. Peace.